Hello and welcome to another AGS Inspire Flipped Masterclass. Last week we looked at questioning. This week we're going to look at engagement. And like last week's video, feel free to pause, rewind, watch this again so you can take some notes, and then I'd advise you to bring the notes onto the session so it helps you through the activities that we work through. As with last week as well, there'll be some further reading towards the end and I'll point you towards that at the end of the presentation. Right, first thing we'll look at is the difference really between engagement and compliance. When we go around and observe lessons, it's fine that kids are quiet and they're not sort of causing behaviour problems. But is that really engagement? There's a big difference really between students just kind of towing the line and being quiet, but are they really engaged in the learning and have they got that hook to learning that that we want? So we're going to explore that. And we're going to make sure that our kids really are engaged and not just actually compliant. So I think that with engagement, really, we can't just expect that from our children. We can't expect them just to come in and be engaged because that's the behaviour we want from them. We need to make sure that our lessons are highly stimulating, they're interesting, they're exciting, and really we make we make our lessons so exciting that the students are engaged, and we shouldn't just expect that. There's 6 different triggers for engagement that we're going to look at now, and I'm going to talk you through. And these triggers are things that you can plan for and things that you need to be conscious of in your lesson. Some of them will link back to the questioning from last week, and a lot of these things you'll probably have done already in your classroom, and it's just bringing them back to the forefront of your mind to think about how you can actually plan to make your lessons as engaging as possible. So the first one, rapport. We're not saying, and I'm not certainly saying you have to be best friends with your students, but I think that we need to have that common understanding and common respect for each other. And I just want you to cast your mind back to school. Was there a teacher that you disliked so much that taught you that actually turned you off that subject? And that's the danger, that if we get into negative relationships for one reason or another, then that can have a lasting effect on that student, and you can never really get that back, because if that relationship is broken, then they're always going to be feeling like they don't like you or they don't like the subject, and we're never going to get anywhere. We need to make sure that we get to know our students. You take the time to ask them questions, find a little bit more about them, and show interest in the things that they do, maybe outside of school, because we've got to have that relationship and building that, because we need to have unconditional respect, and it's very hard at times, but we need to remember that we're the professionals and we're adults, and our young people sometimes don't have the emotional maturity to say sorry and to build those relationships up again. So we need to do that, because if we don't, we'll always be complaining about the same students who are badly behaved in our lessons because they don't like us, they haven't got a relationship with us, and it's always a negative friction, and we need to get past that. A great way of doing that is going the extracurricular mile, really. So many opportunities for teachers to get involved in extracurricular opportunities and see students in a different light. As a PE member of staff, I know that that's happened, and that's a real benefit to PE staff, that we do a lot of that and spend time with teams. But I know there's so much going on in the school as well. Things like the Duke of Edinburgh project and things, and it's just amazing to get outside of school with some of those students and to spend some time with them and see them in a different light and build those relationships. So that's certainly something that you can plan for, and something to keep in the back of your mind. How can you build that positive rapport up? The second trigger is curiosity. If we've got curious and inquisitive learners, then really you've got it made, because they're literally always hanging on every word, wanting to know what's coming. But we need to develop that. Again, we can't just expect that to happen. So how do we develop that? Well, one thing is questioning. We talked about questioning last week, and I think that questioning can develop curiosity. So how you carefully plan and deliver your questions can leave students thinking and really get them deep thinking. But also getting students to ask questions. If our students are asking the right kind of questions, then it means that they're curious and they're wanting to learn more and they're wanting to know more. 2 great ways of doing that and kind of building those curiosity and those curious moments are in starters and plenaries. At the start of the lesson, how can you set it up so kids are really sort of curious about what's going to come next and where the lesson's going to go and what we're going to be doing today. And then maybe at the end of the lesson, leaving something, leaving a little cliffhanger, leaving a little something, we're going to look at something like this next week, and not giving them the whole picture, but leaving them wondering for the next few days and leaving them thinking about how you left the lesson. So those are really important aspects of the lesson to build that curiosity. And also, from time to time, to bring sort of interesting objects and resources into the classroom, something different. Maybe just leave it on the front desk for a little while and say we're going to come back to this at the end of the lesson, and just get kids thinking, oh, I wonder why that's there. What's that for? And it's all about building them up as thinkers, and really getting them engaged in wondering what's coming next. Okay, next we've got imagination, and really I think imagination is huge for kind of getting students to think out of the box a little bit, because children are fantastically imaginative, and I think at school sometimes unfortunately we drum that out of them, and we need to get that back. And actually being free of the restrictions of like traditional thinking can really awaken like creativity and engagement, and it can kind of set them off on a different path, and I'd love us to get back to that, where students are using their imagination. But also as teachers, how can we use our imagination to plan our lessons differently, to deliver it differently, to kind of the students go in and the desks are on a different place, or there's something different's going to happen today, or you've dressed up in character, whatever it is. It's just a kind of how can we use our imagination and the students' imagination to really drive that forward and to really get them curious and get them engaged, and again that builds rapport as well, because they know you're doing something different for them and you've planned it for them. So how can we do things differently in the classroom to build that? Okay, next we've got challenge, and this is one of our key objectives really, to kind of raise challenge across the school. And I think that we all know this, that students will rise to our high standards and our challenge, but equally and worryingly, they will also sink to our low expectations. And we've got to make sure that we pitch and plan our lessons and our resources and our questioning at the right level and make things challenging. If it's too easy, students aren't going to give us their all. They're going to get bored. It's not going to be interesting. On the other side, the flip side of that is if we pitch it too high, students get turned off as well, because it's way too hard. So it's about finding that right balance, and that's about knowing your subject inside out, knowing your students inside out, knowing their levels, knowing their target levels, their current levels, and knowing what really sort of pushes their buttons, and making things challenging. And a line that I saw from Ofsted, not from our Ofsted, but from a national Ofsted report recently, was that it's not financial poverty that actually creates low results. It's more the fact that it's poverty of expectation and poverty of aspirations, both from families, parents, and teachers, unfortunately, that actually drive standards down. And it's about how can we raise those expectations and get our students to actually rise to our expectations, and challenge is something that that is really important. We know that most people, or certainly boys as well, thrive on competition. How can we make things in our class competitive? And certainly, we're looking at another improvement aspect is how can we raise the performance of boys? Well, certainly competition with boys is key. They really like that, and how can you use that to really improve and embed challenge in your lessons? Giving out Vivo points and rewards, and celebrating success, and celebrating when people have made success or after challenging activities and challenging tasks. Again, it's all about building that that kind of environment of hard work, set on real high challenge, and then celebrating that success afterwards. Right, moving on to choice. Choice is something that actually opened my eyes to it when I researched this a few years ago, and it's kind of the idea. We're going to come back to this in a few weeks when we look at takeaway homework. But it's the idea that as a teacher, do you have to set the medium for which the students present the information to you, or is it actually a case of you just need to assess and evidence their understanding of the subject material? So you may be setting a homework or setting a task in class, and you may say, right, you're going to do a presentation, or you need to write a magazine article, or I want you to answer these questions. Well, all of that is just you're setting that so you can see whether they've understood it. Well, do you have to be the person that sets what the task is, or is it the case of, well, I want you to evidence your understanding of this topic we've just done, you choose how you evidence it. You might give them a framework, so you might say you can do it in a Word document, you could do a presentation, you could do a video for me, you could record an interview, you could do a comic strip, whatever it is. And actually you start to give ownership to the students of their learning. And as long as you are careful in making sure that the students don't use the same medium every week, because you don't want a student just doing comic strips every week. But if you can kind of keep a hold on that and make sure that you maybe give them 2 or 3 options, then suddenly what you find that students think and believe that you're far more flexible, you're far more trusting of them, that themselves on how they're going to do their work, maybe in class and at homework. And some students you'll find really thrive on this, because they can really go away and be creative about how they're going to produce it, and you will get some amazingly fantastic and surprising results. Teacher at my old school, I talked to her about this, and she decided that she was going to do exactly the same on a geography project about volcanoes, and she would have normally got them to write it out for homework. It's a boy heavy class. She wouldn't have got many homeworks in from the students. It wouldn't have been very good standard. And 2 boys went home and they collaborated on the project themselves, and they actually created a Minecraft kind of environment in a world on volcanoes, and they recorded their screen and they sent it in, and it was absolutely amazing. The level of detail that they went into for building this volcano in Minecraft was phenomenal, and they would have never got anywhere near that way if they'd had to write it out. So they showed all their expertise about what they knew about volcanoes. They designed it, they talked about it, they did a fly through, they talked about all the different areas, and it was clear that they had all that knowledge and understanding. And it was just the fact that they had choice of how to present it. So again, think about how you can use choice, not all the time I'm saying, and maybe not give them complete free rein, but you might give them some, an option of 1 or 2 different ways. And again, just think about, do you need to actually set the medium, or do you just need to evidence their understanding? And lastly, fun. We can't make all of our lessons like a party, and I'm certainly not asking for that, but how can we make our lessons a little bit more fun and in the environment where students can really feel like they're enjoying being at school and enjoying the lessons? I think we all thrive on gaining pleasure from activities that we complete, and a fun environment is normally kind of accompanied by strong positive relationships. And if you think back to situations you've been in yourself as a member of staff, as an adult, even as a child back at school, when you're having fun, then there's normally good things happening around you. You're normally happy in your relationships and happy in the environment. And also I think that having fun helps aid memory, because when you're thinking back in an exam, or when you're trying to recall some information, the experiences that you find the fondest and the ones that you memorize most are the ones where you've had fun and really enjoyed things. You don't remember the boring lessons. So how can we make things fun? How can we kind of create environments where we do things differently, and students can laugh and can find enjoyment in the things. And it's about your delivery, being light-hearted at times, and making sure that the students want to be in the lesson, they're looking forward to the next lesson, and they have a great time while they're in school. So that's it. That's the 6 different triggers. I mentioned that there was some further reading. There's only one article I'm going to point you to this week. It's a fantastic article, and it's about challenge. And that's the area that I'm going to pick up on. And it's about how you really differentiate your lesson by actually pitching your lesson and your resources at the top end of your class and raising everyone towards that. So have a good read of that. Like I mentioned at the start, feel free to bring any notes to the session on Tuesday. We're going to explore all these 6 different triggers, and we're going to look at how in the past have you had, what experience have you had in planning and delivering one of these 6 triggers, but also looking forward into lesson plans and schemes of work. Where can we actually plan for choice? Where can we plan in lessons for curiosity? And where is there a way we can plan something really fun? So again, feel free to bring any lesson plans, schemes of learning and progress, any notes, and the blog post if you would like to, and hopefully you found this interesting wherever you are watching it this week, and I will see you all on Tuesday. Thank you very much.